Hello again, it's Mr. Carroll here with my next video in the Pandemic and Public Health series. So today we're going to be talking about breaking the chain. We're talking about breaking the chain of disease. Basically, we're covering why do we wash our hands and why do we cover our mouths when we sneeze. Now, every disease is going to spread in different ways, but this is mainly focused on how colds and flus and other viruses that spread by coughing kind of get spread and what we can do to stop that. Okay, and obviously the novel coronavirus COVID-19 falls into this pattern. So you can see in this picture here on the title slide, this is what a sneeze looks like when you don't cover your mouth. This is why it's so important. Because the viruses that we're talking about, the ones that cause us colds and flus, they live in these little droplets. And depending on their evolution, they can live for a long time, they are light and can travel further in these droplets. It all has a bunch of different things, but they basically all kind of live in these droplets and get spread through them, okay? When we spit or sneeze them out, that's how they're getting spread. And so we're going to talk about how we can break this chain, all right, to slow down the spread of disease. Now, there's 3 ways we can really do that with a coughing or a respiratory illness, all right? Physical distancing. So that means moving apart, depending on the disease. It can be 6 feet, it can be more, it can be less. But right now you're hearing 6 feet is the average, and that's what you should follow. Herd immunity and vaccination. Today's video is going to look at the first 2, physical distancing and herd immunity, because vaccination actually takes a really long time to kind of properly develop, just because you have to do the research and the tests, and you'll make mistakes and you have to test it again, and so that's the one that actually takes one of the longest to get to. And physical distancing is actually one of the quickest ways that we can slow the spread of a disease. Now, you might be asking, why is it important to slow the spread of the disease? I'm sure you've kind of heard it's just so that we can make sure we have enough supplies and enough beds and enough people to take care of those who get sick. If we get all sick at once, we can't all go to the hospital at the same time. All right, so slowing the spread of a disease kind of helps spread out and pace out where people are getting sick and how they're getting sick, so that the hospitals don't get overwhelmed. So you can see here, this is kind of how a disease spreads. So the person in the middle, he has an illness, okay? And he sneezed and he coughed and he touched his face and he touched doorknobs and he got just 2 other people sick. But then they got 2 other people sick, and then those people got 2 other people sick, and you can kind of see how it goes on. But if we break the chain, like the person on the right-hand side of the screen in the picture below did, by physically distancing themselves or by getting a vaccination, they then didn't spread the disease to all those other people like the person on the left-hand side of the screen still did, because they weren't physically distancing themselves, or they got coughed on and they couldn't help it. All right, and so that's kind of why this shows how the breaking the chain really slows down the disease, because none of those other subsequent spreads happen. And of course, this is only if you spread it to 2 people. Imagine if you were spreading it to 3 or 4 or 5. So here's another video that's kind of talking about flattening the curve, which is that same idea of breaking the chain. Okay, you're just slowing down the spread of the disease, and it's how physical distancing kind of helps it. All right, so you can see all these ping pong balls together, and one's coming down, and boom, he hits one on the mousetrap, and then that sets off other ones, and that sets off other ones, and that sets off other ones, until everyone has it. And that's the same as if a disease has spread. Now everyone's distant, and the ball bounces through. Okay, and so they're using the term social distancing. I like the term physical distancing better, because we're not really socially distant. We can still call our friends, we can still talk on Zoom, we can still do certain things that are social. All right, we can write letters and emails to people, but we want to be physically further apart. Okay, now the other one we're talking about kind of slows down the spread of a disease is herd immunity. All right, that's why the common cold doesn't go as fast through it, is because enough people have already gotten it that they aren't continually to spread it, because our bodies are really kind of crazy. They work that oftentimes they once you've gotten sick by one thing, it's really hard to continue to spread it. All right, it's kind of like the idea of chickenpox. You can't get chickenpox again if you've already gotten it once. Okay, so you can see in the top drawing, this is kind of like our current situation. There's no everyone's healthy, but nobody has ever seen this before or gotten an immunization for it, and so the disease spreads through everyone in the population. And you can see in the middle one, some people have had it, a lot more people haven't, and it still kind of spreads. And it's not until you get to the bottom one, where a lot of people have had it or have gotten a vaccination for it, that it kind of slows down the spread. Now you might be asking, well, why don't we all just get sick at once? Well, this one, it can take a really long time to go and spread like this. All right, and it also ends up exposing the most vulnerable people in the population, which is something we're going to talk about soon. All right, so it's not really the best idea to do, to like just say, oh, let everyone get sick, because the people who can't get to the hospital or get to the hospital late may not be able to get help that they need. Okay, so we don't really want to use this idea of herd immunity. Okay, so my next video will talk about vaccinations and kind of the development of those and how we got to that point. But thanks for watching this video. As always, if you have comments, feel free to leave them below or send me an email. And I look forward to having you guys back here next time. Stay healthy until then.